Hello everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Royal Blue Podcast. My name is Joe Thomas, I'm of course the Echo's Everton correspondent. Alongside me we've got regular contributor Gavin Buckland. We've got one of my colleagues, Everton season ticket holder Ian Croll here. We're filming this in a studio at the back of the Echo offices. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm surprised we made it this far. Such is the level of animosity between Reds and Blues over some of the big decisions. That, believe me, we were supposed to start this about 40 minutes ago, but it's taken that long to corral Gav, who had to come into the office today, past all the other people, because such is the level of debate and anger, which I'm sure that we're going to cover obviously in great depth. And I'm sure we'll be continuing the same battles and debates you've been having within your own families, your own friendship groups, and of course on that cesspit that is social media as well for much of the past 48 hours. There's one big talking point. I'm not going to start there, we'll build up to it. Okay. I think where we're going to start is everything up to Ashley Young sending off. Okay. So my thoughts going into Anfield was Everton needed to start quick. Liverpool, perennial slow starters. The one thing that Dyche seems to kind of have in his locker with this Everton side is a hard, tenacious, aggressive start. And my hope was if they could get an early goal, then they're far better at protecting something than they are trying to chase a game. Now, to a certain extent, they tried that, although it didn't last very long. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a good chance quite early on, didn't he, Ian?
I mean, it's like what you said. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's chance there was should have been a goal. To be honest, straight into the hands of Alisson. He managed to outjump Van Dijk, and that would have been the absolutely perfect start for Everton there, 1-0 at Anfield. Very, very disappointing, obviously, the way it ended up going after that. Obviously, we'll come on to the young. I want to get straight into the young thing. I'm sorry. No. Obviously, I think me personally, I didn't expect anything from the game. In fact, I genuinely didn't care whether we lost, because we've lost so many times. My wife went away at the weekend and I had the kids, so I genuinely wasn't bothered about football. But obviously did watch the game. So to go and go into the game with that mindset, to come out of the game with the complete opposite mindset was obviously rather frustrating, and this has given me the opportunity to vent. But yeah, I think obviously if we'd scored that goal, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's header, it would have been a completely different, probably different game, to be honest. So unfortunate that he couldn't do it, and then obviously we know how things turned out over the next half an hour. Yeah,
well, for the next half an hour, it was almost a bit of a surprise to me the way in which the game played out, Gav, because obviously Everton didn't really create anything else that isn't necessarily to be expected. We know it's unfortunate, but we know the disparity between the two sides and their current ambitions at the moment. But what I was really impressed with from Everton was the fact they didn't really concede anything. And actually, I thought the easy thing would be to go there and just try and just protect your own box. And I think that Dyche has done that in the past and it hasn't quite worked. And when I was looking at my timeline going into this game, one of the big talking points was go and have a go. Now, all right, whether they had a go or not, whether they had the tools in their toolkit to be able to have a go and create lots of chances is debatable. But I was actually quite positive. I thought Everton's performance and their game plan was quite positive. I thought when it was 11 against 11, especially just before the sending off, one of the things that really surprised me was how frenetic the game was and how end-to-end it was. And okay, there was a lot of Liverpool getting to the byline and then pulling it back and then having to shoot or just lose the ball because they couldn't break into the box. There were lots of opportunities that Everton had. They didn't have clear-cut chances, but they were very good at disrupting Liverpool in the middle of the park. And I thought there were a couple of opportunities that Garner and Onana, obviously they're very young, very inexperienced, but obviously we know they're talented. With a little bit more composure, they probably both could have played Calvert-Lewin in to create a big chance if they'd had a little bit more composure. But it wasn't Everton's box being sieged by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't Jordan Pickford being made to work, was it?
It wasn't even Everton's final third being under siege, was it? We kept Liverpool at pretty much arm's length. I mean, the Calvert-Lewin chance was the best chance of the half, wasn't it? Really? I mean, I think there was only the McAllister shot, wasn't it? That
which is comfortable to deal with.
And the frustrating thing for me was our passing accuracy was ridiculous, 50-odd%. And there's a few times in the first half where we got in their final third and thereabouts and just wasted it, where we just run into blind alleys. There was one where Decore, where we had a little bit of a break, and Decore just held on to the ball far too long and just ran into the middle of the defence. And that happened 3 or 4 times. And when you look at the stats, you think, oh, we showed no ambition, but we did actually get into their third, but then we were let down by poor choices and stuff. And so that was the frustrating thing for me. But I think we've got to give credit to our backline here. You know, certainly, you know, Brandwaite has got lots of plaudits, Tarkowski as well, and Mikalenko we thought was excellent. Good. You know, the fact that I think it was a bit harsh on Mikalenko. I think Salah got man of the match, didn't he? I thought Mikalenko pretty much kept him.
He kept him out of the game.
Kept him out of the game.
He took a penalty. After 75 minutes, 40 of those had been against 10 men before we started to even really get involved.
And so that was how well we defended. And like Konate had a really good game, I thought. And you know, that was testimony to the players. You've had a lot of criticism. I thought they did the job. Did the job really, really well and very disciplined. But it wasn't like an Arsenal game, was it? We just didn't have a clue. Really,
no. I mean, that was it. And I think that's kind of where you can almost take a little bit positive from the game plan. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't think the Arsenal plan. I don't think the intention was to sit as deep as they did. I think they just got done by the better side and they got forced back, maybe panicked a bit. I thought maybe the one parallel that you have with the Arsenal game and this game is what you just alluded to there, and it's just that distribution from the centre midfielders when you do get the chance. In those big games, you're only, you know, like with Calvert-Lewin's chance, you might only get one good opportunity, you know, to play a killer ball or to get a shot on target, and they didn't quite take that. I thought that when, you know, Everton were quite good at winning that loose ball around the centre circle, and there's one occasion I think Calvert-Lewin had won it fighting back and it fell to Onana, and he had the opportunity to start a break quite high up, and you know, Liverpool's defence was quite high, and he said he tried to lob the keeper, and it didn't quite work. And Ghana had another one where, you know, he tried to fire it into the feet of Calvert-Lewin and put about 3 yards wide of him. It's just, I mean, that's the difference in when you're coming up against top quality opposition, isn't it?
And when you've not got the ball, when you do get the ball, you've got more to do with it. And I think we played about 10 yards further up the pitch than what we did against Arsenal. We looked far better for it. To be honest with you, and then after 30 minutes, you're also thinking as well. I wasn't at the game, but for people I know who were there, they said like it was quite quiet, subdued atmosphere. You know, which
you could tell that on the telly. To be honest.
And when that happens at Anfield, you know that you're probably doing the right thing, and then we then sort of get into the difficult bit.
One thing I thought was quite interesting, and it's a bit of a problem, Evan, of it probably hasn't happened that much this season actually, but where Liverpool did threaten, it tended to be from Everton's attacking set pieces from their corners, that counter-attack. You know, there was a very good last-ditch sliding tackle from Young to deflect the Diaz effort over, and I think Konate made another crucial one for him.
That was a great tackle.
That was a concern, wasn't it? And then that probably, again, tells its own story about where this game was going. Everton were most vulnerable when they went on the attack.
Yeah, I think that was probably the scariest thing of the first half, and maybe the little bit most frustrating thing, because it was down to our own downfall really. Liverpool getting into these opportunities when we were certainly, it was more when we were having the set pieces rather than a build up and attack, and then it was the exchange of possession. So, but you know, they didn't score from it. You know, defending is still part of the game, and we managed to defend that well, whether it's a latch this tackle or wherever. So yeah, you spot on. Young, great block. Onana, you know, how he managed to get in between those two Liverpool players, I can't remember exactly who it was, but, you know, he cleared the ball. So, you know, that is obviously a concern, maybe going forward. I think in the past we've always been a little bit, why don't we commit more men further forward and set pieces? Maybe that's the reason why that we're not, you know, we're looking a little bit vulnerable in that respect. But like, all I can go back to is that Liverpool didn't score from those counter-attack. They did look dangerous from it, obviously. But
not only did they not score, they didn't create any real clear
opportunities. No, they didn't. Other than that, probably you'd say the one that Young blocked, which was obviously a shot. But it was, you know, it was well defended.
Yeah.
Maybe you could look at it and go, maybe it was a little bit desperate, but you know, that's the exchange of a counter-attack. You get your players back, and you're meant to defend well. You get your bodies in line of the ball. That's exactly what we did, I thought.
Right, so we'll move on to the decision making. So in the first half, and I kind of, I feel like it would be lazy to call the Ashley Young red card a game-changing moment, because the game played on for another 40 minutes after that. Yeah. Much of the same vein, to be perfectly honest. But we'll start with his first yellow, the foul on Diaz. I mean, any complaints? You got a bit soft, but I I thought it was a yellow. I thought Diaz probably looked for it, but he sticks his leg out. He's beaten, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, it was a yellow, wasn't it? The frustrating thing is if the Tsimikas challenge is not a yellow, then therefore Young's is not a yellow. Here go that.
I was writing in the blog, and I'm not sure if I tweeted, but certainly in our live blog, Simic, the way in which I could certainly understand why Young got booked.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. But then when you see Tsimikas commit, I think there were certainly 2 fouls in very quick succession. At least one of them could have been a straight yellow even. At that point you're thinking a little bit, come on.
The Jack Harrison, was it the Jack Harrison one? It was clearly yellow, wasn't it, really? So I get that, but looking at it in isolation, no problem about Young getting a foul, giving and yellow cards and knockout. Yeah, I think there's probably, is there an issue then? Would you have taken him off at that point and brought Patterson off?
Well, I think at that time you knew straight away, certainly not straight after the Young booking, but after the Tsimikas one, that when he didn't get booked, you just thought, here we go. Why is this? It's just all about consistency of referees' decisions.
Yeah, well, I guess what Dyche might have thought at that point, when he sees the leeway that's given to Tsimikas, maybe he thinks that there might be a little bit more leeway shown for Young for his second yellow card.
Was that Young's first tackle or bad challenge?
I think it was his first tackle. Obviously, I think the block on Diaz's shot comes after his booking, so you still have that in his locker. So that's one. And also, we might come on to Young a little bit more when we talk about the second one. Young actually he picks up a lot of yellow cards, isn't he? And I think that Dyche maybe is kind of almost trusting his experience that he can carry on playing with a yellow card because he isn't going to do anything stupid. Well, obviously, we go on to the second yellow card. There can't be any complaints here, can there?
No. I think he would have been banned anyway, wouldn't he, for the next game? Yeah. I mean, it would be inexcusable if it was a rookie defender doing that, But Young, with all his experience, has just let it go. I mean, Diaz would have been in a threatening position, but you'd rather have see what happens from that point and having 11 men on the pitch than go into it, a stupid challenge and get yourself down to 10 at a relatively early part of the game. And it was no complaints. As soon as you see him, you thought he's off here, and I can't complain. I can't complain about that.
No,
I can complain about Young,
yeah,
but I can't complain about.
Well, that's it. And I think that we're going to go on to the big talking point shortly, but the controversy around that, I think, has possibly helped Young get away with it a little bit, really, because he needs to take responsibility for his actions there. And at Anfield, game still 0-0. Everton looking relatively comfortable, already on a booking. It's a bad tackle to make, and it's a bad tackle for the most experienced player on the pitch and someone that's played at such a high level for 20 years as well.
I think certainly for the second one, obviously it's brain dead to do that challenge because Liverpool literally weren't going to score at that moment. Do you know what I mean? The ball probably needed to be passed to someone else for it to go in, obviously in the net. I think just going back to the first one, I think we're probably going to come on to Craig Pawson, but I just think that the first one, the game wasn't a dirty game. We've seen dirty game derbies where you think, bloody hell, these challenges flying in, definitely yellow card, definitely a straight red. I think we will all agree with that. This one was competitive and being played in a good spirit. It was Liverpool. We've already talked about Liverpool on the counter attack. We had our chances or opportunities to get forward. I think with the first one, it's towards the centre of the pitch, isn't it, or the halfway line. The referee needs to show a bit of common sense there and say, this is a Merseyside derby. That's your first warning and last warning, and your next one is a booking, and then you literally, or Young is walking on a tightrope straight away. Yeah, well, so I've got no excuses for the second one, but I do think again, could the referee have said warning, that's your first, or your second warning and last warning?
I think the issue again is, and I think we probably all agree with this. I think most Everton fans will agree with this as well. It's not necessarily that you gave Young a yellow card for that first one. It's that in choosing to give him a yellow card for that first strike, kind of as you allude to there, Ian, what you then do is you set a threshold for the rest of your decision making that you've then got to be consistent with, and obviously it wasn't.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I get that about first tackle, but I think if there's a 50-50 in a derby and you should say, I'm going to book you for that tackle, he was just late. I get that argument about like it's a derby, like giving a bit of leeway, but it was the cynical nature of Young's challenge, wasn't it? That that he just basically took him out.
He wasn't through on goal, or they were on the attack, but
it stopped him. But I can see why he was giving that. I can see what you say that, but
and then so I mean we move on to half time. Obviously, Dyche changed it around quite a bit. Moved to 5 at the back, brought Michael Keane on, brought Nathan Patterson on. I was all right with those changes, to be perfectly honest. I kind of thought that, well, he's going to have probably 55, 60 minutes here with all the stoppage time that we get these days up against the Liverpool side. They've now got an extra player. And I'm looking at your face, Gav. I think you might disagree.
Yeah.
Go on, tell me what you...
I thought I would have just changed one player.
What was the goal?
Yeah, I would have just brought Patterson on and taken probably Harrison off. I thought, as you were just saying, we weren't under a lot of threat. It wasn't as if it was like the Alamo there. It's going to be even worse in the second half. We kept Liverpool's arm's length. I would have just made one change at half time and just take it from there. So kept like a four, I don't know, McNeil, Decore and Arna, Garner, with Calvert-Lewin in the midfield and then Calvert-Lewin in front. I think by changing two, it was too much of a change. It gave too much initiative to Liverpool and basically left us with no attacking threat in a game that we were still in with the shout, and we could still, an opportunity of hurting Liverpool. And I just thought that was too overly defensive. Okay. I think if the Young, I'm just thinking what have happened if it'd been 11 and 11 at half time and Young had, made that challenge in the first couple of minutes of the second half. Yeah. I think Dyche would have only made one change then. I think he wouldn't have made two changes. I think he would have made one change. I think because it was just before the break, he had a lot of time then to think about it,
and a lot of time
strategy.
To talk about the strategy of the players as opposed to the first.
And I just thought it was one too many and gave too much initiative to Liverpool and left us with, it was coming up with stats. Once we had 5% possession, didn't we, at one stage, and over a 10-minute spell. In a game that we were, not really getting too much hurt against us, I thought we should have just made one and just taken it from there. And if it's struggling, then make the second. Because I like McNeil, gives us balance, as I say, and we lost a bit of balance. At the same time, I could see why you just want to plonk 3 men in the middle.
So what would you have done? So, I mean, if Harrison's coming off, are you moving James Garner to the right?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Would you have concerns about Onana and Decore as a two-man midfield against that Liverpool setup?
I think on occasions you can bring one of your wide men in the middle to make it 3. I just have a look at it. Because of the state of the game, just have a look at it for 5 or 10 minutes. If you then need to make a change, because maybe you are getting a little bit overrun in midfield a little bit, then make that change then.
You're going to get overrun anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's in fact what, what happened.
We say this.
In terms of possession,
following possession, we say this, but obviously it didn't really happen. I mean, it did in terms of possession, of course. Yeah. But where I think to some extent you can argue that Dyche has vindicated his decision-making is the fact that first 20 minutes of the second half, again, it carried on in much the same vein. Liverpool had a lot more possession, of course, and Everton's attacking threat completely diminished. But Liverpool didn't really create any clear-cut opportunities. And I remember turning to Chris, who was alongside me, just seeing when the 60-minute mark came up, thinking, bloody hell, where have those 15 minutes gone? And, I think almost at that point, you kind of start to think, well, doing all right here, and I think there's always that kind of air of when, you're used to going to Anfield and having the game play out in the way they do, you kind of always have that expectation of the worst and, that looming sense of dread that the late goal's eventually going to come. But there was nothing really on the pitch to me that suggested that there was anything inevitable about Liverpool scoring, which then makes it particularly difficult when we come to the big decision of the game not to send Konate off. Ian, you're chomping at the bit. Like
no, I just want to say I agree with Gav. I was a little bit disappointed, and I don't know whether I was shocked or not, because it probably is a Dyche move. But when the substitutions came up on the screen, I was like, can't believe he's done the 2 there. I completely agree with you, Gav. I think I would have done the exact same substitution, just the one. I'm trying to put myself in Dyche's shoes, at this moment in time, or, this season we've got the 5 subs. So was he thinking, well, if I do this now and then it's still 0-0 with 10 minutes to go, I might be able to at least bring an attacking player on and see what happens. But although I agree with what you're saying, Liverpool didn't show any, attacking threat.
I think his fear would have been that, one, Nathan Patterson's quite young and inexperienced, and two, he's very much more of an attack-minded full-back. And I think if you were to have that dynamic of Harrison in front of him, who again is quite attack-minded, although he's very, very hard work, and we saw that again the other day, I think he probably would have feared that the same thing might have happened. Because the one thing, whereas I wasn't against him starting James Garner in the middle, by putting Garner in the middle and Harrison out wide, one thing he did do is leave Ashley Young exposed to Luis Diaz in a way that perhaps wouldn't have been the case if Idrissa Gueye had started and James Garner would have been, obviously, it's quid pro quo, you lose different things. I mean, neither of you have mentioned this, I mean, would either of you consider bringing Idrissa Gueye on? It sounds like you wouldn't.
What, as one of the two?
Or as just at half-time in terms of any configuration?
I think you needed the right back. You needed the right back replaced, didn't you? Because I agree with you, Joe. Where Liverpool, 15 minutes on from the second half, they didn't still look like they weren't going to score. But it's that pressure to build up, because I'd say following on from that period, they did look a little bit more dangerous, although being frustrated. They got in with Diaz, where there was a penalty shout. I don't think it was a penalty, but
we talk about the Patterson one.
When Diaz went down, I think
we'll come to that. But I think it's important that we very much see this as before and after Konate.
But even then, what I'm trying to say is the build-up of pressure of not having an outlet other than Dominic Calvert-Lewin up the pitch has contributed to Liverpool scoring the goal
but
as well.
You can say that, and I'm not trying to be argumentative here.
No, I don't need to be.
They bring better one.
But it's like for like replacement.
Wait, they bring better one. The fact that he does offer a little bit going forward is exactly the reason why Konate wipes him out on the halfway line.
But
and then we are in a situation where, and I can't imagine any of us, I can't imagine any of our listeners, and I haven't heard any pundit, and I've heard a lot of ex-Liverpool players and people who are on the TV and that, and a lot of fair-minded Liverpool fans. If there's anybody that doesn't think it should have been a yellow card, there's a lot. I'm dealing with a lot of whataboutery on my timeline about people saying, they still would have won and things like that. But I mean, it should have been 10 men versus 10 men, and I mean, surely at that point you say, well,
even regardless, without Liverpool not going down to 10 men, like I say, the build-up of pressure and not having that outlet alongside Dominic Calvert-Lewin, whether it was a McNeil or a Harrison, What did we offer in the second half other than a strong defensive line with the midfield and then an attacking threat of just kicking the ball up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin? He might win the ball, but he's not going to have anyone next to him to get that second ball.
I'd say they offered a very strong and resolute defence that wasn't conceding any clear-cut chances. And even if they had 11 men, it's going to be limited chances against the Liverpool side. With 10 men, they had the breakaway after 20 minutes into the second half, which... what better would have done with it? Of course we don't know. We don't know what would have happened if he'd have got past Konate. But he didn't get the chance to. He didn't get the chance to because Konate had wiped him out. I mean, it should have been a red card, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've had, shall we say, a frank exchange of views before we came on outside, and it was a quite clearly a yellow card, and not only does he hold them back, he blocks him in his leg, doesn't he? Like, you see Konate starts limping, doesn't he?
Konate knocks himself off balance. I've had a lot of people in my time on Liverpool fans saying, was there even contact? I'm saying, well, he's nearly clearly himself.
And it was. And you're looking at, I mean, I think the frustrating thing for me about this is, and you spoke about, I think maybe before it came out, about quite measured response by Everton fans to this, because I don't think anybody's saying this that massively affected the result or the game. It was just the fact of the lack of consistency in football in general, and coming off the back of the Spurs incident the other week, shall we say, linking the two together, but to me it's quite, I've said, bored everybody soft. It's all about repercussions as a match official, and you make the decision that has the least repercussions for you personally, and in that instance, bear in mind the Spurs stuff the other week, the least repercussions for Pawson there was to keep Konate on the pitch rather than send them off, because that would be a whole host of Liverpool sending off Spurs. Liverpool have had 4 players sent off this season, all that type of stuff, and that ultimately informed his decision, because it was quite clearly a yellow card.
Well, we spoke about earlier, obviously by choosing to book Young for the first one, he set a standard there. He has to maintain it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he has to.
Quite clearly, and that's where obviously the fume and anger is coming from. I don't think anyone, we'll probably come on to it, but even the penalty, I don't think there was any issue with that. I'd say that was a penalty, but the actual, period of play, that short period of play where Beto came away with it, and Konate's tripped him quite clearly. It's a second bookable offence, and he's just waved it away like it's nothing. It's an unbelievably shocking decision. And
I think Jurgen Klopp told us what he thought about it by putting the.
But this is why you can't help
by bringing Joel Matip on minutes later, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he knew straight away, and maybe if Dyche had the chance in hindsight, looking back, he would have done the same with Ashley Young because he didn't realise what type of referee he was dealing with. Someone who was just not going to apply common sense to a very competitive, stressful game for everyone involved, and he is clearly. Obviously, speaking from an Everton fan, he's clearly made the wrong decision not to send Konate off, and whether it's impacted the game result or not, you'll never know. But at least we needed the consistency, and we didn't get it.
I think that's the point. I think that's a point that a lot of kind of maybe Liverpool fans are perhaps missing from the frustration of the Everton supporters, isn't it? Because I don't think anyone's really arguing that it shouldn't have been a penalty for handball. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I thought it was a good shout for a penalty on Patterson on Diaz. Yeah. I thought that could have been given.
I was expecting it to be given.
Yeah, but this only comes after Konate should have sent off. And I mean, we don't know what would have happened had Konate been sent off. And I don't think anyone's actually saying, certainly no one here is saying that Everton would have been favourites have gone on and won the game.
Yeah.
And I think we all accept that given the quality of players in that Liverpool squad and the freshness with the legs and the quality and the people that they got coming on, the fact that they've only been playing for 10 minutes for the last 20 as opposed for an hour, perhaps Liverpool still would have been more likely than Everton to have got a goal if one was coming. But the reality is that we had 65 minutes there, up to Konate, another 5 minutes before the first penalty shout. 35 minutes of which Everton played with 10 men. And regardless of what anyone wants to try and say, there was no evidence there to say, there was no evidence in that Liverpool performance for that first 70 minutes to say that it was inevitable that they were going to get the goal.
No.
There was nothing there. They hadn't been able to break down Everton with 11 men. They hadn't been able to break down Everton for half an hour with 10 men. Anything could have happened. We all accept and we all understand that. But I think the frustrating thing is that Everton, through their performance and through their management of the game, had got themselves into a position where 65 minutes in, even being down to 10 men for so long, they deserved that opportunity to see what would happen on a level playing field.
Yeah,
and it's impossible to say. I'll finish. I'll just finish. And one thing it is impossible to say is it certainly wouldn't have been harder for it would have made the game easier for Everton 10 versus 10.
Yeah, but the
challenge of keeping Liverpool out and not ending up in a scenario where you've got the overloads on the right where Diaz goes down on the pass and doesn't get a penalty, then gets Keane. The dynamic of the game's changed, and those things don't necessarily happen as a result.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, 11 against 11, Liverpool had the bulk of the ball, didn't they? I mean, one final thought about the Konate thing. Again, if Liverpool had been winning 2-0, do you think he would have been sent off? Of course he would have been. Because the risk to the match official then would have been far less in terms of the repercussions, because it probably wouldn't have changed the game. But yeah, I think that's generally the point here. It's not like a Clattenburg derby or, dare I say, Clive Thomas or even the Martin Atkinson one where he sent Jack Rodwell off. In the concept, it doesn't change the game dramatically. It's not, you're not awarding a penalty or disallowing a goal or sending somebody off to make it 10 against 11 wrongly as Atkinson did. It's just the frustration with Everton fans is the fact that actually, the general feeling out there is bigger clubs will get the big decisions for reasons I've just explained why. And I think that's the frustrating thing. It's consistency, the inconsistency, the Simicast challenge, not getting a yellow and Young not getting a yellow, and then Young getting 2 yellows, and then Konate not getting 2 yellows. And that's the frustrating thing here. I've not seen many things I've said, we would have drawn if it wasn't for that decision. I've not seen much of that. What I've seen is just generally the frustrating of the inconsistency, as I say, of match officials. But at the same time, Joe, we don't know, do we? 10 against 10, it might have been a more open game, more space on the pitch. that might favour Liverpool. We might say, well, we can throw more of a, be more of an attacking threat. You just don't know how it would have panned out.
Chances of getting something like that game increase at 10 versus 10.
Yeah, of course they do, yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's such a big decision.
Yeah. They do, but they've also, this goes back to the substitutions that Dyche made. I'm not saying he panicked, I'm not suggesting that at all, but you don't know what's going to happen in the second 45 minutes. And look what could have happened. Liverpool could have had a man sent off and we're down to 10, but we've taken two of our most attacking players off, our two biggest attacking threats off the pitch. Yeah. And Dyche, I'm going to say, but I don't think he's done this, he's almost thrown the towel in at half time and said, well, we're obviously delighted with the points before kick-off anyway. Going in from that sending off, we would have been absolutely ecstatic with the point. Dyche certainly would have been. So it's almost like two of our most attacking players off the pitch, make sure we don't concede, and then. But this is the problem with when you put yourself in that situation, and you're not. What did you say? We have 5% possession at some point.
I won't point to the stat come up on the tally in the previous 10 minutes or something. We'd had it's like 94% possession, Liverpool 5%, Everton, I think, something like that.
So there was a period of time, probably on from about the 65th minute, whether you want to point at the Konate the incident or not, where Liverpool were getting in on that, down that left-hand flank with Diaz, and obviously that's where you suggested that Liverpool could have had a penalty from a potential foul, and that's where the eventual penalty came from with the handball. So it was coming. Liverpool weren't fantastic, they weren't great, but that build up of pressure where we haven't got an outlet, we're not able to just bring the ball out. I think, to be honest, there was only one opportunity that we had in that second half, and came in stoppage time where we had the corner. If I remember, I can't remember us really bringing the ball out to play, having a consistent hold of the ball, and obviously we didn't do anything with the corner. But with these teams, Liverpool, United, City, whatever, Arsenal, if you go down to 10 men and you're not having hold of that ball, keeping hold of that ball possession, the pressure's going to build, and eventually the quality or the luck will come for them.
Yeah,
certainly with
but
the
again,
penalty.
That pressure, quality and luck only came after the decision not to send Konate off, and that's why it's such a big decision. But also, just again, obviously, I know we talk about the defensive-minded substitutions at half-time. He did still have Danjuma and Beto on the bench at that point, so he did still retain some attacking options.
So that's why I mentioned in his mind, half-time, if I do this and at least we can stay 0-0 till like 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, at least I've got the third, fourth and fifth substitution to bring those attacking players on. I'm trying to put myself in Dyche's shoes and why he's done that. I think that's why he has done it, to be honest.
I think Elliott and Nunes come on and made a bit of a difference. I think, from Liverpool's attack.
It was a compliment to what Everton had done. The fact that Anfield was silent and getting quiet, getting very, very frustrated.
Yeah.
And the double change comes because they've got no choice, because they're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Everton are defending the situation so well.
I just had a quick search Jabba Branthwaite yesterday, thought he had a good game. There's quite a few Liverpool fans saying we should sign him.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well,
I thought he was exceptional.
He was,
but I thought we were unlucky. Keane.
Is Michael Keane cursed?
Yeah, he's one of those players.
It happened against Leicester. He gave the handball away. It just.
Again, I think probably as a defender who's experienced, who's played that many times, try and show a little bit of common sense in what you're doing. I appreciate when you're on the pitch, it's very difficult to with your body position and where your arms are, but it's obviously he definitely could have had them a little bit further in, and I think if it was a little bit further in, because he has got it out here, hasn't he? If it was a little bit further in, you'd like to think that VAR would say, well, it's not. That's a natural position for him to be in. That probably is an unnatural position. I don't know. Kirst, I don't know. It's not looking good for him, is it?
It's a shame. Obviously, he model professional, wants to do so well, but I guess one of the other things you probably say, we easy to say curse, it's also easy to say we quite often happen to come on in high pressure situations whenever under cosh, so the likelihood of mistakes having more significance is only going to grow.
I thought it was frustrating for me. It wasn't as if he was like a yard away from the ball. He was the second. Patterson slid in, hadn't he? And he was like the sort of second man, and you're looking at it. Because you saw the rest of the game where like the likes of Tarkowski go like that, don't they? In the
you do see players do it, so that's
like that. You saw that, and Keane, it's a real. I won't say amateurish, but it's poor from a senior pro that haven't done something similar to Leicester last year, that you do the same in quite a highly pressurised game when you are doing well, and that penalty, it changed the game, didn't it, really? Because from then on you've got limited options, and at some point
the second goal's irrelevant.
And but I think it's a bit hard. Keane cursed a bit harsh, but you can see why.
I just think, I think there's an element of bad luck involved in it. Like, and he's not doing any of this on purpose. It just always seems to be him when he's involved.
No. There's common sense. You just said you see players there with their arms behind the back, or at least Tarkowski was doing it. Why isn't Michael Keane thought that in his head? You see it all the time when a team gets to the the byline and crosses it in. How many penalties are given when our arms out? It happens all the time. It probably happen less because defenders are wise to it now. They're a bit more onto it. Your arms behind your back, you're probably going to lose an element of balance, but in that split second, or that split, couple of seconds, if the ball's whipped across and it goes past you, fair enough, but you obviously try and block the ball with any part of your body other than your hand.
Yeah. What was the frustration a little bit? It was definitely a penalty, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
The fact the referee watered the corner. The referee watered the corner, and you're thinking, the VAR, gets called in.
Well, he knows in the back of his mind.
But you know what I mean. It was just
if he's able to make that split second decision and go, I've got cover, then with this decision, then it makes the Konate one even more inexcusable.
The fan thing about the Konate, there was an interesting discussion last night about whether we've shown off this before on the pod, haven't we? About if it's a second yellow card. Yeah. VAR can't have a look at it.
Dyche says after, VAR, you just think that...
And it was an interesting discussion about it last night, because somebody said quite rightly that if you did that, like Konate, just generally, you'd be obliged to have VAR review the first yellow card. So imagine if it just becomes totally bureaucratic. So imagine if you say, like, Konate on Saturday, you say that's a yellow card, VAR sends him off, but then you say, look at the first, if that first yellow card been for a not an offence that he shouldn't have got, he then stays on the pitch, and so I do get why, if that's why they decided to do that, have that protocol, I can see why it's being done, because it just makes a mockery of decision making, doesn't it? But it is an anomaly, isn't it? Because I'm sure if VAR had been there on Saturday and you'd had the chance to look at that and see what Konate actually does with Beto's legs, that he would have had to send him off, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll come to the end here. We'll finish off with for all the anger and the frustration, I actually thought there were positives you could take from that from Everton. And I thought, Branthwaite was very good. I thought Onana was very good. I thought a couple of other all right individual performances, but as a team, as a collective, they actually played very, very well against obviously one of the best teams in the country. And I guess probably one of the challenges now for Dyche is to try and almost make sure that the anger and frustration the players also clearly felt doesn't distract them from building on the tactical and the strategic positives that they've had there. Probably one of the other big useful points from the weekend was the fact that Bournemouth and Burnley both lost difficult games they would hope to be winning, which kept that buffer up, isn't it? Because I think West Ham and Brighton isn't going to be easy, is it?
No, West Ham have had a couple of bad results and Brighton have had a couple of bad results, haven't they? So there's hope there, isn't it? But I think what I'd take from Saturday is good individual performances by Branthwaite, Tarkowski, Mikalenko, definitely.
Mikalenko, very good.
And Arne, I thought Pickford looked reasonably solid. James Garner perhaps was under par. So that those are the positives to take. But
it's expectation with sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. After the Bournemouth performance, you're expecting James Garner to have a worldie next game, and it doesn't work out like that sometimes, does it?
No, but I think you look at that, and I've come away from Anfield, not that I was at the game, from a derby feeling worse. You know what I mean? Not in terms of performance and stuff like that.
Dyche's second game there in February when we spoke about this a lot last week. They just didn't even lay a glove on Liverpool. They didn't even try to lay a glove on Liverpool, and they got to the point where they started throwing pushes and shoves around about the 80th minute as if they were almost trying to convince themselves that they'd shown some fight, and it was just all quite pathetic. And this certainly wasn't was it? So that's the case. Well, hope you've got your fix of discussion over the big talking point, which I'm sure is going to rumble on and on and on. If we do another couple more podcasts on this, do you think might be able to force a favourable decision at the weekend. What do you reckon? Should we ramp up the pressure? And
I'm more for another Konate pod for 45 minutes. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Good Morning Britain to start talking about the Konate incident like it is.
On that note, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We have a wonderful week, and we'll be back with you on Friday to talk all things West Ham.